The number one problem that people think ruins relationships is communication, but that's not actually the problem. Communication only breaks down after this very one important thing disappears. And if you don't understand that, it doesn't matter any relationship that you get into, every relationship is going to have an issue long term, even when you get really good at trying to talk it out. So if you have been in a relationship long term before and then things just kind of like died, they didn't work out, or if you've been married before and then divorced and now you're starting over and you're thinking about dating again, but you don't want to have to go through the exact same thing that you went through, or let's just say that you start a lot of relationships and they seem to go well at first, but then all of a sudden they just like go completely downhill and fast. Most people think, we just couldn't make it work together, or, oh, we just can't communicate. That is incorrect. Today I'm going to show you why communication actually changes in relationships. We're going to dive into what's actually happening underneath the entire surface of everything, and I'm going to show you what you can do so that you can fix it so it never actually becomes a problem. So let's talk about, why do people actually blame communication? Really, it's because it's the easiest thing to blame. You're dating, everything's going great, things are lovey-dovey, you get engaged, you get married, you move in, you turn into a long-term partnership, whatever. And then all of a sudden, you're like, why is this so hard? I can't talk to you anymore, right? You're like, all of a sudden, we don't talk anymore. We don't talk anymore. No, I'm just kidding. We're not going to sing. But you're like, this is so hard. He never listens, or she never listens. It always ends in an argument. I just don't understand you. All of these issues start to happen after you get into a big long-term relationship. And what you need to understand is that communication is not the problem. Communication is a symptom of the problem. So what is the problem? The problem that people are actually having is the fact that there is a loss of love. What? I know, sounds crazy, right? Love is the problem. The loss of love in a relationship is the problem. So here's what we need to keep in mind and understand, right? The truth is hard because we don't fully understand it, but you have to understand, hundreds of people get divorced all the time for thousands of reasons. But there has never ever been one single couple that has ever gotten divorced when they were in love. So you have to understand the psychology behind how all of this works, all right? So that's what we're going to dive into today. The first thing that you really need to understand is that when you at first start dating, at first, okay, there's a lot of really good what we call communication etiquette. Why does communication change? Because the etiquette disappears. Quette, okay? So the communication etiquette is the thing that we typically don't really understand that we're doing, but when we don't know someone, we're trying to not step on people's toes. We're trying to not create problems, right? And so what ends up happening is we establish this like universal form of etiquette. Don't interrupt people. Listen. When you don't understand, ask questions. And it's a new person. So most of the time when we're talking to our coworkers, when we're talking to people that we know that are acquaintances, or people that we don't really have long-term relationships with, this communication etiquette naturally kicks in. We're going to listen. We're not going to assume because we don't actually know this person. So we don't like assume anything. Keep that in mind. We don't know this person, so we're not going to assume anything. And all of a sudden we have this communication etiquette that is beautiful and wonderful. In fact, the same two people, we're just going to call this guy over here. This is Bill. Say hi to Bill. I'm not an artist, so you can laugh at me later. And this is Sally. Oh, Sally, we're going to make you smaller than Bill is. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, cool. So you have Bill here and Sally. And maybe in a relationship, they can communicate great in the beginning because they have this communication etiquette. But then all of a sudden, Bill and Sally, they start dating, they move in with each other, they all of a sudden form this beautiful relationship, and then they're like, why can't we talk anymore? Why is everything a fight? Why is everything an argument? Okay? The same two people at the exact same point, you put them in rooms with other people. You put them in the same rooms, Bill with coworkers. You put Sally in different rooms with different people with her coworkers. And Bill and Sally can still communicate just fine. So where is the barrier? Where is the loss of communication in the relationship? It's because of a loss of love. Okay, so why does this actually happen? There's actually a universal principle that is called the law of familiarity. Now, the law of familiarity is very important to understand because there's a couple of things that you really need to know about the law of familiarity. When people are in a relationship, at first everything seems fine. But the law of familiarity actually states that the longer that you're together with someone, the longer that you're actually in a relationship with someone, the longer that you have something, the more you start to take it for granted. Now, what that means in a relationship is that all of a sudden, instead of being kind and respectful and listening to someone to understand them, now we think, I've been married or I've been in this relationship for 6 months, 2 years, 12 years. I know Sally. The reason why she's doing this is blank. She has motives. She has underlying intentions. No, she doesn't. She doesn't. Just let her speak. Let her talk to you and explain exactly what's going on, okay? Same with Bill, right? Bill jumps to conclusions thinking that Sally just wants money all the time. And you know what? Maybe she does, okay? But that's another discussion of another topic that you have to have, depending. It's a financial situation, not specifically a you always need something from me. We run into problems with the law of familiarity because people start to assume they don't understand each other anymore, or they think that they understand each other well enough to jump to conclusions with the expectation of looking for something in return. When we have this conversation, I am expecting that this will happen. Expectations will kill a relationship faster than you can say smile. Really, really, they will. Okay, so how do we fix this, okay? The thing is that we have to stop assuming that we understand, okay? We can't assume that we understand someone. We can't assume that somebody is looking for something or having some type of underlying motivation or connection, because all of a sudden, you are no longer doing the one thing that actually makes communication work: listening. If you listen to understand, your communication problems disappear. If you listen, not to figure out what you're going to say next, but if you listen to actually emotionally understand, intentionally and intellectually understand, all of a sudden your conversations are going to be way different. But these are all things that you can do to fix the communication. But fixing the communication is just the symptom. Communication, the loss of communication, is a symptom of the loss of love. So let's talk about the psychology of what happens in a relationship, how people fall in love, and how to fix this, okay? Now, this concept is called the love bank. I've been using the love bank for a really long time to actually describe how relationships form and work. But there is a doctor and a counselor that wrote a book utilizing this concept called the love bank long before I was even born. So I've got to give him credit. His name is Dr. Willard F. Harley Jr. Dr. Willard F. Harley Jr. wrote a book called His Needs, Her Needs. If you're currently in a relationship and watching this video, highly recommend checking that book out because it'll teach you how to fix that loss of love. If you are getting ready to enter a relationship or you're starting to date and that's why you're watching this video, this is going to be a really quick recap of really good information of things that you want to know. So here's the thing that you really need to understand, okay? Now we're going to pretend that this is like really a cup here, but this is really bank accounts, okay? And so let's look at this from the concept of a bank because it makes it significantly easier to understand what's going on. But every single person that you meet opens up like a brand new checking account, okay? So if this is Bill, and Bill meets Sally, in Bill's love bank account, Sally will have a new checking account opened. In Sally's love bank, Bill will get a new checking account opened, right? And every single person that you know has a checking account. Maybe this is your mom, your dad, your brother, your sister. Every person that it is that you know has a checking account. Okay, so what that tells you is that in your checking account, things are either growing or they're dying. Everything is always in a state of growing or dying, which means anytime you create a comfortable interaction, we are creating deposits going into this account. Anytime that you create an uncomfortable interaction, a withdrawal comes out. Now, why is this crucial to understand? Because let's just say here, take an example like, I'll just pull me out, okay? This is going to be my hubs, okay? And this is going to be the checking account. Okay, when I met my husband, things went really, really well. They went really, really well for a really long time, to be totally honest. And he just constantly did things that made me comfortable, that excited me, that kept things positive. All of those things that create positivity in a relationship creates deposits. So boom, 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 boom. Before you know it, he had actually completely filled up my love bank. And something fascinating happens when you fill it. When my husband filled my love bank, romantic love got triggered. Let me say that again. Romantic love is not a choice. It is a trigger. It is a biological human reaction, a neurological chemical reaction that happens in your brain. It's not something you can choose. It's like when you watch every freaking Hollywood movie on the face of the planet and two people fall in love. What's that because of? It's because of consistent deposits of emotional needs that are met, okay? So all of a sudden, Kalen filled up my love bank so much that all of a sudden he started opening up a savings account. Woohoo! We like savings. And all of a sudden, I had an exhausting amount of love for my husband. Now, what's interesting is that when he fills up my love bank, there's a really fascinating thing that happens neurologically in your brain. From a brain scan perspective, you are scientifically different. You enter a completely separate frame of mind when romantic love is triggered in your body, and you start to behave differently, which is why it is painstakingly obvious every single time that you can find someone that's in love. When you see two people that are in love, like really in love, you're like, ew, gross, PDA, whatever. You can tell. You can really tell when they are actually in love because this state of mind actually changes your physical body. Now, when my state of mind is changed, guess what I'm doing? It is instinctive for me to do whatever it takes to fill my husband's love bank. Okay, now this is an important solution for you to understand because if you ever feel like your needs are not being met in a relationship, you've started taking transactions. And how do you fix that? You do whatever it takes to get a checking account full and to start a savings account with emotional love bank deposits. You have to hit this. If you hit this, everything else is going to start changing for you. Your spouse, your partner will instinctively start taking care of your needs from a neurological and a biological chemical matter. It's completely different. You have to start by taking care of the other person. Love is taking care of the other person. It's intentionally choosing to have that love and to take care of their needs, okay? So it's not really about you, but if you make it about the other person, you're gonna benefit from it, which is really cool. Okay, so this is really what you need to know because what ends up happening is you can fill up a checking and part of a savings account, but this is where things get interesting. What happens if after you get married, the law of familiarity kicks in and you are no longer really taking an interest in taking care of your spouse? Well, all of a sudden, we're gonna have something interesting happen here, and all of a sudden the savings account is gonna disappear. And guess what? We're gonna start teetering. And all of a sudden, if you keep this up and you keep creating uncomfortable interactions, all of a sudden your love bank is going to start to dwindle. Now, this is the unfortunate thing, and this is what's happening in every relationship, and this is the part that you have to understand. This is where the problems show up. When you fall below the romantic love threshold. Now all of a sudden, we're struggling to communicate. And things aren't like completely difficult yet because I still have a lot of deposits in my checking account, but things start to get harder. And now we're all of a sudden stressed. Oh, we're trying to have a conversation and all of a sudden I can't have a conversation anymore. And you're like, well, that's weird. I just want to talk to you the way we used to. Have you ever heard a woman say, we don't talk like we used to? Or have you ever heard a guy say, she just won't stop nagging? It's because of this law of familiarity that kicks in. We start creating withdrawals, and all of a sudden it drains your savings account and it starts draining your love bank. Now, this is the problem that we see enter a lot, okay? Because you can reach a point where this becomes empty. And that is really scary in a relationship. You can most often tell that you have hit empty in a relationship when the person that you've been in a relationship with no longer wants you to try. That is a little bit of a rough patch to be in, because when you reach a point where you're like, I don't even want you to try anymore, that person has become so numb to being empty that they would rather stay with what to them is familiar. They become associated with the law of familiarity of being empty that they don't even want you to try because that gets their hopes up. That's a very dangerous spot to be in. And that is the position. If you are trying to work on your marriage, if you're trying to save your marriage, you have to try your very hardest to literally do an entire transformation of yourself. Kill this assumptions and the understanding assumptions and really do everything that you can to fill somebody else's love bank, okay? Because if not, you can end up in the negative. And that's really scary. You can create so many withdrawals. You can create so many withdrawals that you end up down here in the red, in the negative. And you can have a lack. But here's the problem and the unfortunate thing that you have to understand. If you let this get too far, down here, if you have such a massive withdrawal balance, you will trigger the hate threshold. And I've seen that happen before in relationships, and it is not pretty. This is where divorce and things get really, really ugly, okay? So this is the point that we really want to avoid. Communication is a symptom of the loss of love. Fix the love, and you fix absolutely everything else, okay? So that's a really, really good thing to keep in mind. Okay. So now that we know that communication is really just like a symptom of the loss of love, we need to understand why men and women communicate so differently. So we're going to pull up two people again. We'll pull up Bill and we'll pull up Sally again. I guess I probably should have kept them on my board. Oh well, doesn't matter. Okay, so this is Bill. Bill's back. Everyone say hello, Bill. And then we have Sally. And look, Sally's actually smaller than Bill this time. Woohoo! We won. Oh, we didn't give her a face. Okay, so let's take two different people. And now Bill's like, gosh, this is really hard to understand Sally. I don't understand how she's communicating. Ask questions. Always get curious, okay? My philosophy for any relationship, for anything, to solve any problem is stop assuming and get curious. If you can get curious, you will start to fix every relationship, okay? Now, what ends up happening here is you're like, why is Sally so hard to understand? Why is Bill so hard to understand from a woman's perspective, right? This happens to be because of different matters in our brain. Now, women actually have more white matter in our brain, which means that one thought, okay? Let's put our little thought bubble right here. One thought is actually connected to way more neurological pathways than Bill's. Bill's thoughts here might go to one or two pathways based off of experience. Okay, now why is this important to understand here? Because these experiences for Sally are going to really drastically change how we should be interacting with people and what we actually know is going on. Because we have so many additional neurological pathways that are triggered just by the original outstanding thought. What ends up happening here is that these get tied to emotions. Okay, now pay attention here, especially if you're a man, because let me tell you, if you say something to Sally at the wrong time, it can trigger all these other things. Have you ever said something to a woman on her period and you're like, ooh, not the right time to bring that up, right? Okay, that's because all of a sudden she has all these other neurological, emotional things that are getting associated with the one thing that you said. So when you say something to a woman, make sure that you understand that when you say it, how you say it with your tone of voice, and how you bring it up is going to be crucial. Okay, because if you tell a woman like, man, you're crazy on your period, if she's on her period, she might just get even more crazy. You also might need to understand, hey, we're experiencing a symptom of a loss of love, and that loss of love dips on Sally's cycle because she has so many other things going on that she has a harder time receiving deposits. So men, if your woman's having a hard time communicating, or if you think she's going crazy on her cycle, take the time to put in extra deposits into her love bank, and a lot of the issues will disappear because these neurological pathways are emotionally triggered, okay? Now, women, if you're communicating with a man, if he's having a hard time understanding you, it's because you have too many of these. You can't tell him 500 different things at once and imply 500 different things, because he's only got the processors for something more simple. He's got more gray matter in his brain than you do, okay? The simplicity and the logic connection pieces are different. There's a brilliant couple that wrote some really good books. They're actually right here on my shelf here. This is Shanti Feldhahn, which is for women only. And she also co-wrote this book with her husband, Jeff. And this is for men only. And this is a beautiful series that actually really talks a lot about how the differences between male brains and female brains work. So I highly recommend them as a really good resource. But you look at it this way. They use this analogy that I absolutely love. And they say men have everything in a box. Okay, so when you want to talk about something, you have to let them know, we're going to go find the filing box, and we're going to open the filing box, and we're going to talk about that subject. And when you're done with that subject, we have to put the lid on it and put it away before we can move to a new subject. Which to me was like the most mind-boggling thing on the face of the planet. I had no idea that this was how men thought, okay? Women, on the other hand, more think like computers. And so they can have 50 tabs up on one window and have 3 or 4 windows processing all at the same time. And when they think, they're jumping from one window to the next window, and you're sitting there trying to follow a conversation and realizing we've changed boxes about 17 times since we started the conversation. So hopefully that helps you to understand a little bit of the different processing so that you can understand when you're communicating why that communication is a little bit different. But you have to understand that when you are dating, people don't have communication problems. And that's because they are building love. They are building the emotional deposits that they need, okay? So that's something really crucial to keep in mind. In fact, I have a video that I'll drop below in the comments that will talk about how do you fill the love bank and how do you fill it the fastest and what are the emotional needs that people have. We'll dive into all of that. So if you're curious, feel free to watch that video. But you just have to understand, in order to fix communication, you actually have to fix the love first. The communication problem is a symptom of the loss of love. This is also why people really have a hard time with counseling or with therapy, because a lot of times they're trying to treat the symptoms and not the actual root causes or the problems that have actually been occurring. So if this was helpful for you, the first thing you need to know is stop creating assumptions, stop understanding people, stop creating that fear around what happens if we have this conversation. If you can stop assuming everything and stop putting in those expectations, your relationship is going to start significantly improving. The other thing is to watch your language. The words that we associate to how we communicate with each other really will add up. If you say, I'm confused, all of a sudden, you're no longer pissed off, angry, and I'm going to kill you. Those are very different, strong words that are going to elicit different emotions. So watch the words that you're using. And if this was helpful for you, then take the time to actually learn how love works, right? Learn how you can have it too. And feel free to follow if you're looking for more success strategy frameworks in relationships that actually work because they're based off of science and psychology, not just some theory that I hope tested and worked. My name's Monique. I'm a relationship strategist, and my goal really is to bring back love across the entire world. I feel like if we can cure the world of a loss of love, that we will resolve a lot of problems. And love starts in the home and with how we treat each other. So if you found this helpful, please feel free to like this video. And if you are looking for help being able to actually implement the strategies that we're teaching, feel free to check out the description. We'll have a link below where you can book a call with our team and see if this is something that we might be able to help you with. Hope you have a great day. Bye-bye.